أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Ismi Mustafa Bey, Sunday Morning's Islamic Assembly. Had a few reflections I wanted to share in relation to the ongoing dialogues. Um, these dialogues are in reference to our experiences since we've become Muslim, whether here in the States or abroad. And these experiences have come to define many of our dispositions. Um, and so they're relevant. And it's good that we're having these discussions because it's healthy mentally and spiritually and emotionally. You know, it is healthy that we have these discussions. Long overdue are a lot of these discussions. And I suspect that, many of these things are swept under the rug because it's hard um, um, to breach a lot of this, to actually uh, delve off into one's historical trauma. It's not something that anyone, looks forward to, I would say. So I wanted to say this in reference to like spent a lot of criticism of, let's just say, the Salafi community, right? And rightfully so. No one's beyond reproach. We are not dealing with infallibilities here, right? Uh, I think that a lot of what the contemptuous uh, or the unpleasantries that are emerging uh, they stem from a particular uh, disposition that one has encountered with his brethren abroad, uh, and a lot of um, what we have picking up and internalized uh, amongst ourselves when looked at critically can be looked at as you know self-hating, uh, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I would say that you know this inherited uh, feeling and disposition of inadequacy is very much institutionalized and socialized. Uh, uh, and so, yes, it's only a matter of time before these sentiments bubble up, right? I think that at a deeper level, much of this is because we go into situations with our heart and we sometimes we're looking for ourselves within a tradition uh, because we were people who were broken at a particular time, and so not being a whole full person in every sense. And what I mean by that is, you know, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, so on and so forth, right? Uh, you know, our oppression had reached psychosomatic proportions, right? I mean, we were socialized and to the and politicized to the point of actually agreeing with one's oppressor in many instances. Now you take that mentality and you transport that abroad, where the disposition is looking at people are observing you through a lens where there's a perception, right? Uh, Oftentimes, uh, in in very much error, not having a full knowledge of who you are in your experience, right? That's that. Then there's the people who are teaching you are people who are coming out of oppression and colonialism themselves, and the Islam that they have inherited has gone through a transformation, a reformation, And oftentimes we aren't aware of the transitions that they went through, these people who are teaching us, right? So we coming into Islam at a particular time when central authority has been abolished. Uh, the people, the institutions have been colonialized, and the results are what we refer to as um, an Orientalist interpretation of the Islam has been presented to us, where in which, to make it a long story short, you have the structure, but the structure has no substance, right? You have uh, all these teachings, right? You have this beautiful house, but there's no one in it, right? And so we get these grandiose stories about the great men of the old who strove and established and did what they done, right? And that's the ideal that we're looking at, and we, inshallah, hope to strive for, right? But when we're looking on the ground and we're looking at these current circumstances and these people who are upholding these historical institutions, we see a something altogether different, right? And that was a process. So that's another thing that has been to be taken into consideration when we're analyzing this whole thing, right? Uh, those things are cool and they're necessary to uh, uh, to come up with, the healing mechanism that we so desperately need. At the Sundry Moors Islamic Assembly, we have been, you know, um, guided by Allah, alhamdulillah, to approach things from legal perspectives in regards to our historical struggle here, from historical perspectives that are within the ethos of Islam and not always just within the ethos of the experience of the enslaved African people, right? Because oftentimes if you're within that particular framework, you'll miss you'll miss you'll miss the scattered jewels that have been left. Case in point, at a time when the United States is just coming into existence, right? We know that um, um, Morocco was on the world scene, right? That the Moroccan government had called for a uh, world convention, so to speak, right? And he summoned, dignitaries from the European Christian powers, and on the agenda was the abolishment of slavery and the institution of universal human rights recognition. Uh, we suspect that the United States of America got hold of that because between 1774 and 1770 or 1781, 1774 to 1781, a whole lot of changes go down in the United States of America. You go from the Articles of Association when they first assembled themselves to decide to break away, and then they declare their independence in 1776, 1774, 1776, right? But then they go into what's called the Articles of Confederation, 17, I believe, 81. Between 1777 and 1786, there's some negotiations going on, right? Long story short, those negotiations secured America's right to exist. Uh, and so, why is that important for a Muslim? Well, for a Muslim who was brought over here uh, 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 as a captive of war, right? It would behoove you to become familiar with the warring powers, the political powers on the earth at the time, and what were the agreements that were being made, right? Because perhaps things that were being done to you was in violation of these agreements. And so, moving forward, We know that 1776 is the Declaration of Independence. 1781 is the Articles of Confederation. 1789 is the Constitution. You see that? So between the Articles of Confederation comes the treaty with Morocco, and then comes the Constitution. Those rights are secured in Article 6 of the United States Constitution, right? And so those agreements, I would argue, uh, uh, when you look at our experience, yes, there were some violations that went down of the articles of the treaty. And so, not to get stuck there, because it gets greater. Uh, After this treaty, we know this was the era of the transatlantic slave trade, although it's really coming to a closer to an end in the towards the turn of the century in the 1800s, right? I believe 1806 or '07, British abolished it, and then actually America abolished it, I believe, but it didn't really take effect. I would argue that if you go back to the 1777 Declaration of McNass, that impact had a reverberating impact even on these dominions, although that is not emphasized in the American narrative when you're talking about the history of slavery. That an Islamic country had influence on its abolishment. We know that. We know that because we know that when the seven Confederate states, or was it 11? 11 Confederate states, separated from the Union and instituted their Confederate government, that it was Morocco who denied them. No. And I believe they even commandeered some ships or denied ships entry, captured them, so on and so forth, right? Because that's outside the scope of the constitutional agreement. I mean, the treaty. Now you're at war with the Union state the that the Muslim country is at peace and friendship with. Okay, these things are important. Muslim. This is not. This is not stuff to just be swept under the rug. And so back that up a little bit, as we like to point out. The 1790 first rebuttal to the imposition of a foreign identity upon the Muslim was the Sundry Moors petition not to be considered Negroes with respect to the Negro Act, right? That we know was constructed for the governing of Negroes, right? That rebuttal to that presumption is powerful because it's the same rebuttal that we use today, right? If we weren't Negroes then we couldn't be Negroes now, right? The whole identity of a Negro is a whole nother series. We got that for you too. But staying on point. That rebuttal in reference to the identity of the Muslim is what empowers us today, right? Because it's written in the law, it's in the annals of history, so let the record reflect that this is not a new argument. We're not making this up. When you go back and you look at also slavery that was happening, there's a case called Amistad Mutiny. That case is a case that was decided based upon jurisdiction and whether or not the Muslim fell under the purview of the jurisdiction of the United States, or was able to keep these slaves, right? These enslaved human beings. And I would just say, go read that case. I don't have, we can't, go read the case, inshallah. And so these things are important because they inform our identity from a legal perspective, not just a historical events of people acting upon us, but seeing how the law was instrumental in actually freeing certain people. Case in point with the prince, Abdullah Ibrahim Ibn Suri. The man was literally free because of the treaty with Morocco. But you telling me you about liberation and freedom and self-determination and all this, but you got feelings involved behind things that happened in 1591 between sovereign powers that have nothing to do with you. That's not going to liberate you, brother. you know, uh, Catching feelings about that. When did the feelings stop? You might as well have feelings about every incident politically that has transpired in Islamic history and take a side. That's foolishness. That's the mind of a juvenile, politically speaking. And so, uh, you know, we have these instances, right? We have this empowerment, right? Yet we won't exercise our very rights and choose to rally around the Democratic Party and civil rights and all that. I'm gonna tell you, man, all that's Roman slavery, bro. That's Roman slavery, right? You don't have to be a citizen. You can be a national. And I advise people to elevate their understanding, because if you say I'm a citizen, you're basically capitulating to being the property of Rome, brother. And we know that Rome exists in the form of who today, if it ain't the Catholic Church? So it's a lot to contend with. I was really taken aback, but it really also confirmed things that I have suspicion of, right? When I discovered that there were actually Jesuit colleges in the Muslim lands, right? Like there's a Jesuit college, a Jesuit college. Man, that should be a point of concern. It, but then we don't have a University of Medina here. We don't have an Azhar University here. We don't have a Halloween University here. As part of our inheritance. That's problematic, brother. You know what I'm saying? So, again, I don't want to be long winded, but basically, long story short, when we say, that nationality is the vehicle to pursue our rights, right? That's exactly what that means. A national identity that encompasses your Islam does not uh, pull against your Islam in a different direction, right? Where in which all the things that we wish to do, we do, and we have the rights to do. It's not. It's not uh, 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 nationalism, the ideology. There's a difference between a right to have a national identity and the ideology of nationalism. If you brothers don't know, you should know that. Right? So Allah has already gave us our mandate for nationality. That is a component that was taken from us. And we believe, because of our teachings, and what people uh, 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 impose upon us, that we don't need to have a national identity. When you sitting around the world, sitting with the brother from Turkey, the brother from Pakistan, the brother from Egypt, the brother from Arabia, the brother from Yemen, the brother from all these brothers who got national identities, and you don't have one, and you're referring to yourself as an adjective, but you're concerned about things, man, you got a whole lot to start with that, bro. Get out of the crayon box. Our reality is not based on a color. That's not even the real color. You know what I'm saying? I mean, black, I'm not, with all due respect to black is beautiful. It's a beautiful color amongst the colors. But is that the identity of a people? No, it's a description. That's all. That's all. And you brothers need to come bring your intellects up to speed with that, because all this erudite intellectualism and you don't understand the basics of human social organisms, such as nations and tribes, which Allah says, that's a problem. We still talking this community talk. Community, bro, it's been said. I mean, during the time of J. Rogers, they were saying we was a nation within a nation, right? Well, we need to start acting like a nation. What does that mean? That means all your wealth, all your resources, all your capacity should be used internally for the benefit of you and your progeny. That's what it means, because, and whether you know it or not, that's exactly what the Pakistani and the Indian and the Arab and all these other people are doing right around you while they Islam alaikum, brother. You know what I'm saying? They're doing that. That's naturally inherent to the human being. We need to join the human family and stop being these subjects, right? These trophies of colonialism, walking around still in victim mentalities, right? Talking about what people did to us, and yeah, it was done. We know that, right? Or what the people didn't do, they held the knowledge back from us, brother. And we got people who are very scholastic, very academically adept, right? But what they don't have is a sense of nationhood. You know, it was told to me in the 80s, man, you know, all this going to these universities to getting this intelligence and this education and then go and work for IBM and Micro, whoever, and all these different corporations. Well, all your intelligence just went out the window. It just went to those corporations for their benefit, not for yours. That's our problem, brother. If we solve this nationality issue, we'll be a power broken people, man. We won't be going around with your hand out. You know what I'm saying? Looking for somebody to, bless you. You know what I'm saying? We would garner the resources to go do business with people as a nation of people. You know, imagine that. Imagine that. For real, though. Because right now, you got brothers that's talking about what the knowledge was held back from them. And man, there wasn't no knowledge held back from you. You went over there and got what you had the disposition for. You wanted to learn. You wanted to be the great sheikh that had all the knowledge, and you know what I'm saying, and all that, right? Okay, you can teach the people how to worship real well. You can teach, uh, 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 put the people on the path of the sunnah. You said alhamdulillah, you can do that, but you can't build a nation. You can't even build viable communities that can be prosperous for a whole decade. You see what I'm saying? You got brothers running off with the funds, going back to Africa. And well, why did you have that brother in a position where he can run off with those funds? How did that even happen? You didn't secure the demonstration? Come on, man. We are setting ourselves up for much of what we continuously go through, right? I look at what they just did in them brothers in Texas, man. That's something to be proud of, man. I'm proud of what that community has done. But why can't we do it? We've done it and we've tried to do it, but we always struggling and can barely get along because we don't trust one another. And you know more than me and I know more than you. And and you shake your finger in salad and I don't, and you hold your hands to the side. We caught up in a psychosis that we have inherited. And we have to break that. Ain't nobody gonna break that for us. So I would just say, man, consider this nationality, because it truly is the vehicle. And I keep using this term, the vehicle. Why? Because it takes you from here to there. It's the vehicle we need, right? To all in one stand on our rights. When they attack the Muslim community in Texas, they're attacking you. And you ain't saying nothing about it. You ain't got nothing to say about it because it's a congressman. or a senator, they are saying things that we should have a national voice to respond to, and we don't. That's saddening and disheartening at this juncture of our existence here, man. But you got all the knowledge because you studied with Sheikh Boopty Bow and Sheikh Big Turban over there, and you studied with Sheikh Big Turban over there, and all y'all got poor community.